Hello, darlings. So, this is just going to be a very quick texturing in Blender unscripted video type thing, just to kind of give you a bit of an idea on how to do this. This is going to be mostly with the aim of creating an emissions map or mask, because currently the hot topic is going to be the Ferality Aqua shader. So I'm going to show you basically how to make a mask that you can use for any other shaders, but it's also going to be mostly for like emissions or the effects on the Ferality Aqua shader. So what we've got here is we've got Blender. I'm going to presume that you mostly know how to navigate in Blender, change the views, select items and change into the various editing modes and all that. If you don't, you're probably going to want to go and do a Blender beginner's tutorial first, just so you can get the hang of navigating around, because I'm not going to be able to teach you all of that in this video. But for the time being, we have a very naked looking J right here that we're going to create an emissions mask for. So he's looking very untextured at the moment. Over in the top right here, you can select the types of view. So you've got like a plain white view and the texture view. Now he's got his texture on here. So this is after you've imported your FBX. So it'd be File, Import, FBX, and then navigate to your usual avatar mesh that you use in Unity. Import that in, and maybe he'll come with, maybe they'll come with the textures and maybe not. So J in this case has already got his texture because it knows where it is. But we're not going to be using this. The first thing we're going to do is your default Blender layout should look like this. So across the top of the application, you should have the various tabs that it comes with. The one we're going to be focusing on today is Texture Paint. So that's this one over here. And now what you'll see is the screen will actually split into two. You'll have the 3D view on this side, and you'll have like the texture view on this side. So from here, you've obviously got the tools on the left-hand side of the viewport. This viewport here, the 3D view and the 2D view, are basically exactly the same. You can see you've got the same tools down here as well. Over on the right, you've got pretty much all the options that you're going to need for for actually setting up the options here. And if you do come in with a texture on it already, you can use F to scale a brush, and you can paint on that, and you can see it's painted on there. Or you can paint on the model itself, and you'll see that's kind of painted on there as well. But we're not going to be really focusing on doing any kind of texture painting. You can do all your normal painting and your specular and all that good stuff as well, but we're not going to be doing that for this one. What we are going to be doing is, over on the left hand side, you've got a menu up here for image. Now, emission masks tend to be like a black background, and the reason for that is it's basically the same as it's like light transport. So if you take, say, like a light bulb and you put a black thing in front of it, it's going to shine no light through it. If you put a clear or white filter over the top of it, it's going to let all of the light through. And if you put a red one on, it's going to let only red light through. So that's the kind of theory of what we're going to be doing here. So we need to start with a new image, and the width and the height is going to be dependent on what kind of resolution you want on your model. Now, J tends to use a 4K texture, so it's like 4048, I think it is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be the exact same as 4096. It doesn't have to be the exact same as your main texture, because it will scale to fit anyway. So just as the example, I'm just going to keep it as a 4K texture anyway. We're going to call this one, let's just call it Emission Mask. for the time being. The colour needs to be black, because we want to start with a black background. We want to start with a clean slate, right? We don't need any alpha in it, because it's not going to be an alpha texture. And that should do. So now we've got a nice blank texture in this space. Now you'll notice that J doesn't actually have the blank texture on him. He's still got his original one. Over on the right side, down here, you've got material properties. And this determines what is being shown on any particular material slot. Now J's got 2 slots. He's got one for his, what I've called Atlas, but it's just the main texture. And he's also got a material slot for his sweater and socks, which isn't on this model, but that's fine. We can get rid of that too, just so we don't get confused. But the Atlas texture is the one that's showing up on here at the moment. Now, over on base color under here, if we scroll that down, you can see that it's actually using this JAtlas nude text.png. If we drop down here, we'll find our emission mask, which we just created over on the left side here. So we can select that, and now we've got our blank canvas here. And on this blank canvas, we can obviously paint. Now we're going to want some colours to begin with. So the first thing we want to do, over here, there's a little tiny left arrow, which if you click, you get this menu out. I think it's also, I don't know, T is that side, but that's fine. We can keep this one out like this. We're going to run out of space a little bit here, so I'm going to be kind of like squashing them back up and down just so we can see what's happening. But on this sidebar, we're going to need to use Tool, because this is where all of our colours are, and our tools. Down here is the colour that we're going to be painting in. So you can swap them around to decide what colour you want to paint with. Also, this one is where we also need to select which one we're going to be painting on too. So we want to pick a single image, and we also want to select the emission mask here. So now you can see we're painting on that one, and you can see that it's painting over on here as well. What I'm going to do is I'll just leave that over here, because for the time being we're going to work on this side, but you can see what's happening on the left side here. So the emission mask is basically anything that you want on the avatar to glow. Now, for the time being, we're just going to paint on white, and what white will do is that will let any single channel through as an emission. So obviously we can paint on here whatever we want. You can come down to symmetry down here, and if you mask it by X and Y, X, then when you paint, it'll paint on the same side as well. That's kind of a bit of a useful tip if you're trying to keep like a symmetry or something. Like if you're painting on the arms, it will keep it on that side as well. For the time being, we'll keep that turned on, and we'll just use that one. So another useful option as well, if I can remember exactly where it is stroke. Now what stroke does is, if you're, for example, painting on the front, and you're trying to paint maybe like a front belly type thing, you know, like if you're going up there and you're filling this in, it's like you're looking at this edge and you're thinking, oh, that's a bit of a crappy looking edge. And now you could sit there and try and smooth it out and work on it. But one useful feature in Blender is stabilized stroke. Now what that does is that kind of like, it lets you drag nice, smooth curves. It's kind of hard to explain, but you see the little white line? That's actually, the back of the line is where the stroke is going to be, and you're kind of just like guiding it around. And it's also quite a nice way of making nice smooth strokes on there. So for the time being, let's I don't know, let's give him a, I'm going to turn that off just for quickness. I'm going to give him a bright nose. Let's say that he's got a flashing nose. Let's turn symmetry off. Let's give him, I don't know, a smiley cat face on his chest. Over on his back. Well, let's do his arms or something, I guess. Let's give him a wiggle down his arm. In fact, I want symmetry on because I want to do a wiggle down there. Now, as I said before, you can use F to change the size of the brush. So, I don't know, let's give him some white on the head or something. Come on, Blender, you can do it. There's a UV seam across the top of his head, so it's having a good old think about that. There we go. Alright, let's leave that alone then. Let's give him... I don't know, let's turn on stabilized strokes, look from the side view. Let's give him some... I don't know, some nice swirly patterns like this. Not very good at drawing this stuff, but if you're trying to do circles, it's probably best to turn stabilized stroke off. Let's increase that a little bit. You know, this kind of thing, you can get creative with it. And it's obviously going to mirror on the other side as well. And likewise, if you want to actually get rid of the white, switch it over to a black. A little bit bigger. Oh, that's right. That wasn't symmetry, was it? And you can use it like an eraser. So you're painting black over white and it will just do it like that. Do it from here, that'll be easier. So you get the idea. It's like you can paint on it that way. Another way you can do this as well is with stencils. So back over on this side, so you've also got this. It's the brush menu. Oh, sorry, texture properties, which I call a brush because you're basically making a brush. Now in here, you can create a new brush template. So we're going to open up. Where is my? There's my textures. It's down here, isn't it? So, for example, I'll use the Ferality runes. Let's choose. I don't know. Let's go with rune 1, which looks like that. Now, you can take this and you can actually stencil it on, which makes things a lot easier. For that, we need to go down to where are we? Texture. And you can see it's already loaded the texture in as a brush here. But all we want to do is change that to stencil. Now, as you can see, we've got this stencil which we can move around, and this will work as a kind of like a suggest, like a stencil. So if you're airbrushing something, this will be the cutout that you're airbrushing into. So let's say we want to put this down here. Now you can change the size of this as well. I should turn my screencast keys on. Oh, they're apparently already on, but they're not showing. Okay. So this is shift. So shift and right mouse button will scale it. Right mouse button moves it around. And so you can position it wherever you want. And then if we go back to our white paint as well, you can see if I brush that on like that, you'll see it'll actually leave it behind there. Now, it's a fairly low resolution texture, so it's going to leave a bit of a jagged edge, but it's it's actually my UVs on my model that's doing that, because I've not got a very high quality one. I think if you put it over here, it might be a bit better. Yeah, something like that. So let's say we want to slap this here somewhere. All we need to do, we can choose a bigger brush actually, and just paint it on like that. And that's a way of doing it too. On the back, let's choose, let's open up a different one. Let's choose, I don't know, rune 4, which looks like that. Now, a bit of a tip as well is if you're trying to paint this, Now, you don't really want to kind of... What you can do is you can kind of zoom out a lot. And paint it on like this. When Blender wakes up. Come on, dude. You can do it. It'll also cause issues like this as well, where it's trying to paint a large area of your model. And it'll freeze a little bit. And I've got a bunch of applications open and stuff, and it's not going to do a very good job. But the point that I'm going to make with that one is, I was going to say it would actually leave a fairly jaggedy edge, but it doesn't appear to be. What I tend to prefer to do is pop it on closer. And then you should get a less of a jagged edge. But actually, I don't think it makes too much of a difference. I think these runes are fairly high resolution, so it'll actually look pretty decent. You can also use Control to rotate it around, so if you wanted it facing upwards like that, you can. It's the same kind of controls, but just with the right mouse button. So let's at least try and get that straight. Let's pop that on there and just stencil it on. There we go. So let's just assume that this is what we're going to want. This is what we're going to go with. You can see over on this side as well. You can do it here too. Let me stretch this back out again. So you can also do it in a 2D method like this. So you can stencil on here, but it's kind of hard to see where you're painting or what you're painting. So, like, you know, I could have put it on here. Now, the problem with this is that the way that textures are wrapped around a model, it's probably going to be a bit distorted and such, because, like, you can see over here where I've done the legs, they don't even... you can see the pattern is here with the 3 dots at the bottom and 2 swooshes, but because the legs are split over 2 different UV islands, then it's not going to match up. So the best way of painting anything is just directly on the model like this. Now, with that done, we are not quite finished yet, because what you're probably going to be tempted to do is say, okay, that's cool, that's done, I'm going to save this and then exit. And then you'll wonder where your texture is, where your actual emission mask is that you've just made. Blender doesn't save anything until you come up here and you hit Save As. And it's going to want to save the emission mask somewhere. So let's say I'm going to save this over directly into the Unity project that we're going to be using. So I've got mats and textures, and we're going to call this emission mask here. Color depth, it can stay as 8 because it is only going to be a mono image, or at most it's going to be RGB, but we'll get to that later. Color depth 8. Save as image. And there we go. So we're basically done here now. We've saved that image. We know where it is. It's over in the Unity project. And that's about it for Blender, really. Not much more else to say on here. I'm probably also going to do another video touching on the actual Virality shader and how to set that up too. So, for the time being, I hope that is helpful. Enjoy.